Before we call the meeting to order, we need to reorganize the Board of Health.
This conference will now be recorded.
And I'm just going to ask for a motion for a chair.
I make a motion that we re-elect you.
Motion from Sharon. Okay.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Matt agrees, so that's, I will continue as chair for a year. And the next is motion for vice chair.
Matt, do you want to do that this time around?
Again?
Not particularly.
Okay.
Because I'm still pretty new to it, so.
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion to have Sharon continue as chair, vice chair.
Seconded. Second.
That's a cop-out.
And Ron, Stephanie, and Matt.
Yep.
Yes.
So all in agreement for Sharon as vice chair for the next year. And then we need a clerk, which is apparently quite an easy job, I guess. No increase in pay. So do I hear a motion?
So do we have one? Do we have a clerk right now?
It has been Ron.
Oh, all right. Okay, so I make a motion we elect Ron.
Ron, are you in agreement?
Sure. Go ahead.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Matt is seconding it, and I am in agreement. So unanimous vote for Ron to remain clerk of the Board of Health. Okay.
That was pretty easy last year.
Yeah, you learned a lot, right, from your role.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. I don't know what time it is. And
It is 6:33.
thank you. And we have 2 minutes reviews from previous meetings for July 15th and July 21st.
21st.
Are there any changes or comments?
Nope.
I don't have any.
Nope.
Okay.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes for the July 15th
15th and 21st.
and the
We can
21st.
both together, or?
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll put them both together, sure.
Okay, so,
July 15th and July 21st.
and second?
Second.
Okay, all in agreement?
Aye.
Okay, so Sharon made the motion and Ron seconding it, and Matt and I are in agreement. So, Megan?
Okay, moving on to the work session. We have 2 items. The first is the COVID-19 update. And in your packets, there's a weekly COVID update dated August 13th of 2020. And I'm happy to say that we have not had any more new cases since then, since last Thursday. So we're at a total of 141 for our total number of confirmed cases. We have each one change is that we were following 4 active cases and now we're at following 3. So 1 more person has recovered. And our positivity rate as of last Wednesday is 0.81% of all positives, of all tests done in Harwich are positive. So less than 1% of our population is turning out positive during testing.
Great.
It's really great news. We are still seeing some tests that come through as suspect or probable, and those are the ones done by the antibody testing. So we're tracking just the confirmed ones that are done by the PCR test, but we do have some individuals that have tested positive through the rapid nasal swab, the antibody test, yeah. We did have a clinic for COVID-19 testing at the community center on the 4th of August, just a couple weeks ago. This clinic was in response to some gatherings and parties that took place the week before that involved some restaurant workers or hospitality workers. And we held the clinic outside. It was very successful. We had 155 people that came through for testing, and only one of those came back positive. The rest were all negative, which is also really great news. And that one positive case lives in the town of Wellfleet as well. So that's great news for Harwich.
You just ship them out? Is that the idea?
Yes. Yeah. The rapid response team is through Barnstable County, and they really took the reins on that clinic. They set it up and contacted Cape Cod Healthcare to do the doctor's orders and pre-registration for that. And they were able to get it done between the hours of 10 a.m. and about 2:30 p.m. They did the 155 people.
Wow.
Great.
Yeah, it went pretty smoothly once everybody got set up and everything. The CERT team, the Certified Emergency Response Team that really does traffic control, they also volunteered their time and helped with parking and getting people in off the street and making sure the line to register didn't get too long. It was really good. We had a couple of nurses from Outer Cape Health also participate and help with the swabbing, which was also really helpful to get people in and out without having to wait for a test for too long. And that was the day of the potential hurricane. So we were wondering if it was the tents were gonna blow away, but it ended up being not so bad and not too hot that day either. Other COVID updates. Since we last met, the gathering order has been reduced from 100 people to 50 people outside. So that it was further specified that that's on both private and public property. So prior to that announcement, which was just, I think, on August, it started on August 11th, so last week. The private property parties were not purview to the order, so we weren't able to enforce that 100-person gathering rule on private property. So Governor Baker did amend the gatherings order, reduce the maximum occupancy from 100 to 50, and also put in a clause that it is for private property as well as public. Thankfully, we haven't had any complaints or requests to look into parties on private property. But if that does happen, we will have support of the police department, and they have been named also as enforcement agents on COVID gathering order. So we have been able to partner with them a little bit more than previously. Previously, they weren't specifically ordered to uphold it, and now they are. Other changes to the gatherings order: inside remains at 25 maximum for our gathering inside. It has affected restaurants who have entertainment or outdoor venues that do concerts. For instance, the town band was really hoping to get that going on Tuesday evenings, but with the limit of 50 people and 30 people in the band, they weren't able to really confidently say that they'd have less than 50 people on the site. So unfortunately, they did have to cancel their summer series. Additionally, one major change over the last month is the governor's travel order. And prior to the new order, people were recommended to self-quarantine for 14 days once they come into Massachusetts. And the new order is mandatory for anyone traveling into Massachusetts that is not from one of the low-risk states. And right now, Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, New York, and New Jersey are the only low-risk. In Connecticut, I'm sorry, Connecticut as well, are the only surrounding states that are low risk where people can come and go without having to self-quarantine. But if you're from Massachusetts and you're going to, say, Pennsylvania to drop your kid off at school and coming back, you are also subject to that quarantine travel order. And the state has a mandatory form that you have to fill out as you're planning your travel. Motels and hotels have to request that you fill this form out as well. And the local departments are doing a weekly report from the travel advisory, telling us of all the people that have put in for travel to the town that we live in. So I'm getting a report of a few hundred people a week that are coming to Harwich, and it indicates whether they have already received a negative test or if they're going to be self-quarantining or if they're complete with their quarantine. So it's it's more information, more stuff for us to look at. It's supposed to be enforced by the state and not by the local health departments. I'm not sure if they've had to do any enforcement yet, but I see it as a way for the governor to kind of prevent leisure travel into the state if at all possible. So it's more of a way to discourage the travel. That's the COVID update. So I'll take questions, comments, or if this is your chance to talk amongst each other about COVID and thoughts. And
So I have a question, Megan. Now, inside restaurants, 25 is the amount of people that can be inside restaurants?
only if they have entertainment.
Only if they have entertainment.
Right. So the 25-person gathering rule does not include restaurants if they're just a restaurant. If they're a performance venue, then they do have to do the 25-person rule. But a inside restaurant is able to have as many people as they can safely fit, meeting the 6-foot standards.
Okay, all right.
And that's the same for outdoor restaurants that don't have entertainment. If they are just a restaurant, they can have more than 50 people outside because those 50 people aren't actually gathering together. They're dining at separate tables.
So people can be outside more than 50, is that what you're saying?
If they're at a restaurant.
If it's a restaurant, okay, all right, okay. As long as they're 6 feet, no more than 6 at a table and 6 feet apart.
Right.
Okay.
Right. We still have our COVID enforcer from the county. His name, if you remember, is Spanky, and he likes to go by Spanky. He doesn't look like a Spanky, but he likes to go by Spanky. And he has still been visiting establishments in Harwich, and he'll keep doing that. He went to a few over the weekend, so he's able to go to places outside of the normal 8 to 5 kind of period to see what's happening at these places after hours. So far, so good. He hasn't reported any violations.
Okay.
Okay. So if there's no more discussion on COVID-19, we can go to item B.
I mislaid my agenda. I got it now.
Okay. Okay, so item B, I hate to confuse everyone, but there are two memos in item B. And neither one of them went to the Board of Selectmen last night. A separate one from these two proposals went to the Selectmen. So there were three budget scenarios that I worked on at Joe's direction for some of them. The first one is the budget request that we had talked about earlier on in the spring about going from part-time to full-time.
Yes.
So that would mean that we would increase our staff by half a person.
That's
and
right.
Then the second proposal in your packet is an enhancement of public health and occupational safety staffing. And this is kind of like the Cadillac big ask to change position job duties and position titles. It involves a lot of union negotiations. And after talking with Joe and getting a kind of a feel from the Board of Selectmen last night, this proposal is not on the table for this year, but I'd like your input on it. And then lastly, before you guys start discussing, is the third option, which is the one that went to the Board of Selectmen, is the one that I find to be the most reasonable and efficient one, is to go from what our staff is now, which is 2.5 people, to adding a full-time health inspector, so we'd be 3.5 people. So it's a little bit better than the first proposal of just adding a half of a person. But it's not the big ask of changing job titles and adding job duties. So what I was hoping to get from you is your thoughts on those three scenarios and whether or not you would be supportive or feel it's not the time to do something along the lines of the public health and occupational safety staffing levels. Just wanted it to kind of be an open discussion.
Under the circumstances, I think we need extra people, it would seem.
Mm-hmm.
So Megan, if you had your choice, between these three, which is the one you would want? My thing was always go for it.
I think in the time we're in right now, I think that the option that I presented to the selectmen last night, which is adding one full-time position, is the one that will benefit the department immediately and not require a lot of effort as far as personnel goes. So I'd love to get that in and start and done so that we're at full staffing levels, that ideal staffing level of 3.5.
So I thought you said it wouldn't go in this year.
Not the one that changes people's position names. So in your packet, that second proposal kind of added to the health department. So it became a health and occupational safety division, which is something the town needs. I do believe the town needs that. Right now, we don't have anyone overseeing the OSHA needs of the town. And the custodial staff and all of that occupational health and safety standards are just, they're within the DPW, and Lincoln Hooper and Sean Libby are doing a great job with the staff they have, but it was kind of thrown in their hands, and it's not their wheelhouse. It's not their background. And it is mine and Katie's, and it is the background more of a health agent than it is as of a public works director. So ideally in the long term, I think it's a good move for the town to enhance the health department to include these things. But in the current pandemic state we're in, I don't have the time to do contract negotiations and all that. So I would like to.
What are towns doing?
What? Say that again.
What are other towns? Do they
Other
have?
towns, no. Some towns put the OSHA stuff into the hands of the town administrator or a human resources person. But a lot of towns just don't address it, and they're just kind of skirting around the OSHA standards and hoping the town they're in isn't violating the problem. Because for so long, OSHA was not applicable to the municipal town, to the municipal level. It was always a private sector standard that they had to adhere to. But about 2 years ago, the state decided that municipalities, even at the local level, are subjected to OSHA standards. So it's something that the town has to look forward and obtain eventually, but I'm not sure if that's something we need to do right now. So what I would ask of the board is to discuss possibly writing a letter of support to the selectmen and the finance committee to support the budget request of adding a full-time health inspector to the staff of the health department, and how that will benefit the town and the public health.
Yeah.
Do you write a letter to the selectmen?
Yes, I think the selectmen and both the Board of Selectmen as well as the Finance Committee would benefit from hearing your recommendations.
Okay. Sounds
So
good.
we're going to do this as the Board of Health, not each individual person?
That's right.
So
Right.
you want it to come from Pam. It probably should come from you as the chairperson.
I can make a draft and have everybody look at it to make sure it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be signed by Pam. If someone else wants to take a stab at writing it and having Pam review it and amend it, that would be good too.
So tell me again exactly the wording of what you're requesting.
I am requesting that the Board of Health write a letter of support for one additional staff member for the fiscal year 21 budget.
One full-time.
One full-time health inspector. Yes. Yes, saying
They'd be increasing your budget by $75,000. Is that what you're saying?
the one in your packet isn't the one that we're asking for. It's actually just about $56,000.
50. Okay, very good. Okay. All right.
Can you send us a copy of the one that you're talking about that you presented to the Board of Selectmen last night?
Yes,
Okay.
I can send it to you.
All right.
Yeah, it was kind of a last minute change on Friday afternoon.
Okay.
When Joe sat down with me and we discussed strategy on which one to go with.
Okay.
And what is the title of that person exactly?
Health inspector.
Health inspector, okay. Okay. Sharon, you're good at letters. You want to write one and I'll look at it?
I can start
Oh,
one.
good, Sharon. I think that's a great idea, Sharon.
I'll start one. I just wasn't sure. All right, so you're going to send me a copy of what you propose to them, and then I'll go from there, and then we can all add and subtract from it.
Yeah, we could get a skeleton going.
Good.
All right.
I'll
All
send
right.
that to you guys tomorrow.
All right.
Matt, do you have any comments?
Nope.
No,
Quiet tonight. Okay.
Okay.
No, I'm willing to do that. I think we need that, yeah.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. So the next item is old unfinished business to continue the discussion on developing a mission statement for the Board of Health. So in your packet is the mission statement that was discussed a couple of months ago. I did add in a couple of the key activities. So take a look at it. Read it over and discuss. I'm gonna grab my drink. My drink. I'll be right back.
I think it's great. Any comments from anybody?
I think it's fine the way it is. I can't think of anything I would add or subtract to it. Short and sweet, and it's one page.
Okay.
Yeah. Matt, Ron, any comments?
Nope.
I like it.
Nope, I think it's, yep, looks good to me.
Okay.
Okay, we'll add it to our Board of Health page. Bailey, go.
Okay.
Do you want to vote to accept it or adopt it? Or did you do that and I missed it?
Do I hear a vote to accept the new?
Go ahead, Don.
Okay, Ron, it's Ron.
Oh!
I'll make a statement, I guess, or I'll make amendment. I'm not sure how do you word that?
Mission statement.
You'll
Yes,
make
but
a
how would
motion to accept and adopt.
I'll make a comment to adopt the mission statement as is.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So Ron is making the motion and Matt is seconding it, and everyone in agreement to have that posted on Board of Health site.
Yes.
Okay, so moving on to new business, we have a hearing to discuss and accept, deny, or approve the amended Board of Health emergency order to consider amending the emergency face covering order to include the parking lot and grounds of the annual town meeting. This was thought about proactively, thinking forward to town meeting when we'll have potentially hundreds of people on the grounds of the school. The town meeting has been changed to the football field of Monomoy Regional High School on Saturday morning, September 25th or 26th, I can't remember. But thinking ahead of all of those people getting out of their cars and trying to funnel into the entrance and exit of this, the grounds of the stadium, I thought it would be prudent to have our mask order amended to make it an official order of the Board of Health to require face coverings when you're up, standing, waiting in line, going to and from your car, and until you are seated at your seat inside the stadium. And it can only be removed when you're seated at least 6 feet away from others that aren't in your immediate household, or if you are up at the microphone and you've been recognized by the town moderator. So discussion and comments, questions.
Open the hearing. Any discussion?
I think that's a very prudent idea, obviously, considering.
When you get out of your car, while you're walking to the stadium, you have your mask on. And once you sit down, as long as you're 6 feet from another person, you can take your mask off. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that's fine.
There will, of course, be accessibility, or what am I thinking about? What's the word I'm thinking of? Accommodations for anyone who's not able to wear a face mask or a face covering because of a medical issue. So if someone arrives at town meeting and doesn't have one and they say they can't wear one because of a medical issue, we will have a procedure in place to get them to a seat safely without making anyone else feel like they are being exposed. And same thing on their way out, we'll have accommodations. So people who have medical exemptions can come to town meeting and they won't be turned away from town meeting, but they will have to be accommodated in a different area.
What do we do if it rains? Since it's going to be out there.
There's a rain date for the following Sunday.
Okay.
If it rains 2 days in a row, I don't know.
Get wet. Get wet. All right.
Bring an umbrella.
Yep. Yep. Okay. I would make a motion that we make the masks for the town meeting on what I don't know what the dates are.
Yeah, I wouldn't give it a specific date, just in case it does get postponed.
All right. To require masks at the town meeting.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second it.
Second. Okay, let Matt second it.
Matt seconding, all in agreement?
Yeah, aye.
Okay, so Sharon made the motion and Matt seconded it, and all in agreement. Any public comment? Okay, I close the hearing. All right. Sounds good.
All right, we'll make it so. The next item on your agenda is an amended environmental impact review for Eastward Companies at 0 Crocker Rise / Hidden Cove subdivision. The amended environmental impact report is to demonstrate compliance with Harwich Board of Health Regulation 1.211, plans prepared by Clark Engineering LLC.
I open the hearing. Oh, no, this isn't a hearing.
It is.
It is, okay.
This is Susan Ledoux. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, great. Because I don't think you can see me. So I just wanted to make sure. Is David Clark logged in? Can you tell?
Not yet. I don't see him.
All right. He had a meeting in Brewster, and he asked if you could bypass us if he's not logged in when you were ready to take us and come back. Is that possible? Or have you already opened it?
That's up to you, Pam, if you want to take it out of order and do the others first.
I'm okay with that. So we'll change the business and go on to the next hearing and come back
Okay.
when the appropriate people have come.
Thank you.
All right. So then we'll skip over that and go to the hearing for Lucy, which is 32 Dunes Road, to consider the order of conditions granted on February 18th of 2020, no increase in square footage or habitable space without further review by the Board of Health. This project consists of expanding the existing building footprint to accommodate a small master bedroom addition, approximately 107 square feet.
I open the hearing.
Oh, sorry. Stacy Kanega here from Coastal Engineering Company, representing the owner and applicant, Thomas and Caroline Lucy, for the subject property, 32 Dunes Road. Do you guys have preferences to see video, or are we not? Or do we just do this via voice? Or does it matter? Okay, perfect. Excellent. Well, I think the description pretty much covers it. I was just going to give a brief description of the variances that were granted back on February 18th. The findings were that the distance between the pump chamber and the top of Coastal Bank, 50 foot was required, 35 was proposed, and a variance of 15 feet was granted. And the second variance granted was to allow a tank within 100 feet of a water resource that is not plastic or a monopore construction. These variances were granted for work proposed generally in the vicinity of the dwelling's main entrance facing Nuns Road. The proposed work as part of the February application included some exterior improvements, which covered relocating and replacing the existing pump chamber and removing the existing pump chamber, and interior improvements that included the renovation of an existing bedroom and also constructing a small expansion to the main dwelling entrance facing Knott's Road that was approximately 38 square feet of non-habitable entry of the dwelling. The existing septic system out there is a 7-bedroom system. No design changes were proposed to the design flows at the time of the approval. And although the proposed pump chamber tank was not monolithic or plastic construction, there was additional considerations were made in the proposed design and presented to facilitate a watertight construction. So fast forwarding to today, again, as the brief description indicates, the design for the bedroom renovation included a small addition to the master bedroom. Essentially in the backyard is where the expansion is taking place. The additions include a habitable increased space of approximately 107 square feet to accommodate really just the amenities of the renovation. Yes, you can see it generally. There's the main upper part of that was all that entry that was approved. You can see the pump chamber that was part of the approved February 2020 variance granting. And then now on the kind of in between that 50-foot buffer and 100-foot buffer near the blue line, which is the 100-foot buffer, we have a small addition. That's the 100 square feet addition that's proposed to jet out into the backyard, essentially. Overall, the total building footprint will increase by 145 square feet. And again, that incorporates this 107 square feet of habitable space, and then the 38 square feet that was non-habitable that was approved as part of the February application and approval. And we are still not proposing any changes to the design flows of the property. So the property will continue to remain the 7 bedrooms in total. With that said, I guess we have gone to conservation and have received approval from them on July 1st. And if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to take those at this time.
Any questions from the board? Megan, your recommendation?
I recommend approval of the modification of the previous order of conditions of no increase of habitable space or square footage to the dwelling. I do recommend that the reconsideration keeps all previous conditions in full force and effect.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion.
Matt? Motion,
I'll second it.
okay, and all in agreement?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so Matt made the motion and Ron seconded it. We're all in agreement. Any comments from the public? Okay, I'm closing the hearing.
Thank you for your time this evening. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night. Okay.
Okay. So the next hearing is for 34 Ridgevale Road to consider a variance request to upgrade a Title V septic system prepared by Bass River Engineering. Variances from 310 CMR 15.211 minimum setbacks to allow a proposed soil absorption system to be 18 feet from the cellar wall where 20 feet is required. Variance request of 2 feet. And the second is to allow a proposed soil absorption system to be 5 feet from the property line where 10 feet is required. Variance request of 5 feet.
Good evening, Megan, Jen,
Hearing.
Harwich Board of Health. I trust you could hear me.
Yes.
Can you hear me fine? Okay, thank you. For the record, my name is Tom McClellan. I'm a professional engineer representing Howard and Tammy Tanzi. So the 33-year-old leach pit at this property has recently failed. Our plan proposes to reuse the existing septic tank and install a new updated leach area. It's a relatively small lot, so it's difficult to conform with all the setback requirements in Title V. We do need 2 setback variances. Megan listed them. And there's just no other place on this property to put this system and conform as well as we have. I believe this design represents maximum feasible compliance. And like I said, I just think it's the best place for the system. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Any, well, Megan, what is your recommendation first?
This design is an improvement environmentally to what is there, and I recommend approval of the variances with the conditions that there's no increase in habitable space, square footage, or bedrooms without further review by the Board of Health, and that the variances and conditions be recorded at the Registry of Deeds.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
No.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to accept Megan Eldridge's recommendations?
Make a motion.
Second.
Second, Matt, all in favor?
Matt, you just have to say what your motion is. You can say.
Make a motion to accept Megan's recommendations.
Great.
Okay. Matt made the motion, original motion, and Ron seconded it, and all are in agreement. The motion passed. Any public comment? Okay, I close the hearing. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks.
The next hearing is not exactly a hearing, but it's a consideration of the West Harwich Special District implementing regulations. And we are joined today by our town planner, Charlene Greenhouse, who will give a little presentation on what this is all about and why it is in front of you and what action needs to be taken.
Actually, I was going to say, Dave, it looks like Dave Clark is on. So if you want to take him before me, whatever you guys would like to do. But I know I'm a Johnny come lately to this, so I'm happy to go forward, or if you want to jump back to that original hearing.
Let's go to the original hearing.
Original hearing? Okay. All right. So we'll go back to item B, which is the amended environmental impact review for Eastward Companies at Crocker Rise / Hidden Cove subdivision.
Yep, thanks. I can go through my letter that I submitted, and I'll start, and then assuming if you have technical questions, David can clearly address all those much better than I can. So what I did is I submitted a package to the board, and it includes the Board of Health application and the 16 lot approved subdivision from 2012, your approval letter from 2012, the recorded grant of Title V nitrogen loading restriction and easement on the facility land and credit land, Mass DEP's approval, the shared system plans and revised nitrogen loading calculation, a draft of the revised grant of Title V nitrogen loading restriction and easement, and also the filing fee check. And just to go over a little bit of history, in 2012, the Board of Health approved the 16 lot subdivision. And one of those conditions was that it capped the maximum number of bedrooms at 52. And there were other conditions, but that is our why we're here with our request tonight. And since the 16 lot subdivision plan was approved in 2012, 14 lots have been sold, 12 houses have been built, 43 bedrooms of the 52 max have been allowed with the community system, and they've been used. A 13th house on lot 13 will be started in 2020 and will use 4 bedrooms. Lot 4, the 14th lot, was sold and has been allotted 3 bedrooms. So the total bedrooms used with the sale or / development of the 14 lots is 50, which leaves 2 remaining lots to be sold with only 2 bedrooms for 2 new houses. And with this in mind, we talked with David Clark and asked him to take a look at what we could do to expand the system. And those are the plans that we submitted. And maybe I'll let David take over here and explain what he's proposed and how many bedrooms we'll achieve with that.
David Clark, for the record. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes. Okay. The proposal is to expand the existing system. Unfortunately, the tanks are all undersized for even a 1-bedroom expansion. So the primary septic tank has to be removed and a new tank put in. We sent the initial design off to Biomicrobics, who are the manufacturers of the FAST system. They said that the existing system was not large enough to remove nitrogen for 70 bedrooms. So you look at the plans, there is a second denitrification chamber being proposed next to the existing FAST unit. We'll be able to keep the existing FAST unit to basically start the tertiary treatment process, and then the second FAST unit is basically a polishing unit to get us down to 19 parts per million on the nitrogen. Fortunately, the leach field is a drip irrigation type of leach field, and it can easily be expanded, so we don't foresee any issues in adding on to that. But it's going to be a little tricky logistically to get that new tank in, and while keeping the whole system operational. But in speaking to the septic contractor, he says that he can do it, and we don't foresee any problems. It's just
going through the motions of getting it in. I did provide nitrogen loading calculations showing that going up to 70 bedrooms for this facility keeps us below what the board likes to see, below 5 parts per million on the recharge concentration. Be happy to answer any questions on the design or the nitrogen loading calculations.
Any questions from the board? Megan, Health Director, your recommendation?
I recommend the Board of Health consider the environmental impact review to be in compliance with Regulation 1.211 and allow the expansion of the shared septic system with the conditions that the lots be served by town water, the nitrogen reduction system be under an operation and maintenance agreement with testing as required by the Harwich Board of Health, and the deed restrictions that are currently in place be updated to reflect the new design plans.
Okay. No, nobody has any comments from the board. Okay. Do I hear a motion to vote for recommendations from the Board of Health Director? Somebody?
I'll make the motion to.
I was talking, but my mic wasn't on, so sorry. Go ahead.
Matt has made a motion. I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, go ahead, Sharon.
I'll second.
Sharon has seconded it. Everybody in agreement?
Yes.
Okay. Ron has said yes, and I say yes. So unanimous vote.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Night.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Thank you, Charlene.
You're welcome.
Oh.
Okay, so we'll resume the item E, which is the West Harwich Special District Implementing Regulations, as presented by Charlene.
Say that 3 times fast. Thank you again for having me here this evening. I want to thank staff for accommodating us on adding this to the agenda at the literally the 11th hour. As some of you may be aware, the town through the Board of Selectmen nominated the West Harwich corridor from the route along Route 28 from Dennisport to the Herring River as a district of critical planning concern, also called the DCPC. The Barnstable County Commissioners approved that nomination. It became a county ordinance, which was ordinance number 19-18 on December 4th of last year. And the town does have 1 year from that date to establish implementing regulations, or in our case, zoning bylaws. I also want to let you know we do have Sarah Korjeff and Chloe Schaefer from the Cape Cod Commission. So if you do have specific questions about the Cape Cod Commission's part in this, they can certainly answer that. I probably can too, but they're way more intelligent than me, so you probably want to hear from them. Briefly, what a DCPC is, it's a mechanism under the Cape Cod Commission enabling legislation that allows for specific areas to be designated as, quite honestly, as special, something that you want to preserve, protect, what have you. So that's what precipitated this. I don't know if you recall, but there was a almost 7,500 square foot retail building that wanted to go in on a property down in West Harwich on Route 28. And it met with a lot of opposition from the neighbors. The selectmen also were concerned about it, and that's what precipitated this DCPC. So the commission staff and I have been working on the implementing regs for several months now. And last week, the planning board, at their meeting on the 11th, did endorse this. They are not the sponsors of these zoning amendments. It's actually the Board of Selectmen who approved it last night. The Board of Selectmen voted last night to sponsor this, to refer it to the planning board for necessary public hearings under Mass General Law, and to also place it on the town meeting warrant. So they are very much supportive of this. As part of this DCPC process, there is a requirement that both Conservation and the Board of Health, that we do need to inform you about the proposed implementing regulations and give you an opportunity to comment on them. If your board so chooses, you don't have to comment if you don't want, but certainly if you are supportive of this idea, that's great. If you have no stand on this, that's okay too. So a vote or any specific action is not required, but if you do want to make a statement of support, you certainly can to both the Board of Selectmen and or the Cape Cod Commission. Just looking at my notes. You were provided with a copy of the document. It was a number of pages long, so I can understand if you didn't really have the opportunity to go through it. This has been vetted by, I have an email list of over 70 interested persons who have property here in Harwich or are tenants in that area. And so far the input from them has been very supportive of this document. If you do have specific questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. In all instances, I do want you to know that whatever development is done, absolutely positively, it has to comply with state Board of Health regulations as well as your regulations. So it doesn't allow anybody to deviate from those requirements. They're still having to accommodate and plan their projects with you all in mind as well. So with that said, I am very happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions from the board?
What's the, why is it so special?
This is known as Captain's Row. There are a number of old sea captains' homes in that area, particularly in that area. And there are well over, I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but well over 25, I believe, homes that are eligible for even the National Register of Historic Homes. They are on what's called the Massachusetts Historical Commission list. It's called MACRIS. There's a longer name for it, but generally that's what it is. So there are a number of homes in there that folks really felt needed to be protected from demolition. And that's really what spirited this movement, was when that retail establishment wanted to go in, they were looking at tearing down one of the old sea captain's homes. And that really upset a lot of people and really got people motivated. We had at one hearing over 100 people at a hearing, which was unprecedented at a planning board meeting. It was like, wow. So that's one of the main reasons. We're looking at 4 different areas there. We're looking at historic preservation, community character, traffic, and also economic development. So we're trying to make it so the historic homes there, or the historic buildings, can actually move through a revitalization or redevelopment of their properties quicker than if you were to build something anew. I hope I answered your question.
Yes.
Have you had any opposition from anyone in that area?
Quite honestly, to right now, we have not. We've had a number of meetings before the planning board. We also held a special meeting on the 4th of August, where we did a meeting similar to this, but it wasn't a public meeting. It was myself and commission staff who presented this to interested people. We had some great conversations, some great dialogue back and forth, and so far it's been very supportive. And at the selectmen's meeting last night, there were several people on the meeting that were also extremely supportive. It's a zoning amendment, so I'm sure somebody out there doesn't like it, but that will come up at town meeting when it comes up for a vote on the floor of town meeting, or the lawn of town meeting, I guess we should say.
Any other questions from the board? No?
Again, you don't need to take any action. If you feel as though you think this is a great idea and are supportive, you know, if you want to make that kind of motion, or you just don't have to do anything, quite frankly. We just were required to make sure that you were aware of this.
What kind of motion are you looking for? Just that we're in agreement with it?
If you are interested in a motion, the motion could be that I move that the Board of Health vote to support the efforts and the implementation regulations of the West Harwich Special District.
But that's not,
Sorry, Sharon, go ahead.
I said, I thought that sounded really good.
Yeah.
You can actually say so moved.
Very good. Not that I can remember it all, but do I hear a motion to that effect? What Charlene has proposed?
I make a motion for what Charlene just said.
Okay. Sharon has made
it that way.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Second. I'll go back to it.
Okay, and Ron is in agreement and I am in agreement.
Sure.
So
Yep, sure.
the motion to
Sounds
support
good.
this has passed from the Board of Health.
Great. Thank you all very, very much. I appreciate your time.
You have a good night. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you. Bye, Jen. Bye, Megan. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay, so that concludes new business. Moving on, we have the report of the health director. In your packets is my July report. It's mainly COVID related because that's mainly what I've been doing in July. I wanted to point out one thing I didn't get to in my COVID update was that I've been having lots of conversations with the school nurses and the schools themselves about their plans for reopening and how contact tracing and exposures are going to work for both the school as well as the town goes when and if something like this happens with a student or a faculty member that becomes positive with COVID-19 and what that's going to look like. So I just wanted you guys to be aware that we are working together on this, and it's going to be a very big learning curve as far as contact tracing goes and exposures go. And there's a lot of documentation and guidance from the Department of Public Health as well as the Elementary and Secondary Schools Division. So a lot of people are talking about it and have put their thoughts and considerations into how to deal with it. So we will be involved with positive cases that not only live in the town of Harwich, but go to school in the town of Harwich. So we've been working with Harwich and Chatham, as well as the charter school who has kids from all over the Cape. I haven't been in touch with the regional, the tech school yet, but similar discussions will be had with that school district. So we will be following those cases and those kids individually as well. I wanted you guys to know that it's a pretty big joint effort going on, and that it will be complicated, but I'm sure we'll get through it just like we did back in March when this first started.
So what is the school, what's the stance right now about the school opening?
Right now, most of Barnstable County and Harwich and Chatham are in the clear or in the very low risk areas. So in-person schooling is possible and recommended at this stage. The schools that we have in town are offering parents the option of fully remote if that's their choice, or a hybrid of in-person and remote, or a fully in-person option. So parents and caregivers are given those 3 options and they can choose on their own which one they want to do. But until Harwich goes up into a higher risk level, the state or the local board of health won't recommend a remote only option unless the community transmission it goes up. Because right now it's extremely low and very safe to go back to school on pretty much everywhere on Cape Cod. So we are recommending to go back to school with proper social distancing, lots of extra hand hygiene, and a lot of other safety precautions put in place. So it's going to look a lot different when kids go back to school this year than ever before, but we are recommending in-person classes.
Okay.
And then the last thing on my report is the annual non-resident taxpayer meeting has been.
Can I back up and ask you a question on the schooling? Is there anything in place for if in one of the schools, let's say whether it be the high school or equal to junior high or middle school, are there set like guidelines, like if we would get so many positives, or or teachers? In other words, are there some guidelines that if we reach this point, we're going to close it down and go to? So I guess my question is, do we have a plan B ready to go if something happens?
So the short answer is yes. The state has 3 different levels of safety, and right now we're in the very low risk level, but they do have a metrics of when we have a certain amount of positivity rate, then we get changed to a hybrid remote and in person, and then at a level, the highest level, the red level, they recommend remote only. And
so that's coming through the state. In other words, that's not our local decision here.
That's right.
All right.
That's right. And we will be part of that discussion because they'll want to know about community transmission, because we're a transient place in the summertime, but not so much in the fall and the school year. So even though our numbers look kind of low right now, it doesn't mean that people from off Cape aren't here on the Cape as positives. It's just, that's the way the Cape is. So we'll be in on the discussions as far as should the school go to that remote option, which they've had practice doing over the last part of the last school year.
Okay.
In correspondence, there's one piece of correspondence in your packet. It's a notice of release abatement measure for the former Handler's Auto Salvage property at 397 Route 28. You probably drive by it all the time. This is just a notification that there's a plan in place to collect the contaminated surface soils and sediments, and rendering the soils potentially isolated. So this is going to be an ongoing cleanup effort and will be under the Department of Environmental Protection's purview for the foreseeable future. So it's an FYI.
That's what they're doing out there with that there's a tractor or something in the back there?
Right, they're identifying contaminated soils and they're either removing them or isolating them so they don't leach into the groundwater.
Now, how about that building there? They're going to take that down, and what's going on with that building?
I don't know.
It looks like it's ready to fall down.
Right,
Is that part of the, is that in our purview or not, or anything like that, or?
Not unless they propose to occupy it, and then we'll be looking at a septic plan for it. But right now.
Okay, so they're just working in the back there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they aren't sure what their ultimate plans are for the property.
Okay, very good. Who is the Environmental Protection Agency monitoring it, or who is working back there?
So the property owners hire a licensed site professional, and in this case, it's the BSC group. They're out of Yarmouth, also Boston. But so in the case of any contaminated property, the DEP makes sure that all the regulations are being met, but it's by an engineering company. So the licensed site professional is in charge.
Okay, sounds good.
And then the last thing on your agenda is the permit list. We do have one new food service permit on your list that will be having a final inspection tomorrow. It's the Cape Roots Market and Cafe. This is a brand new establishment right on Route 28 in Harwich Port. This is that new building, sometimes referred to as the Eyebrow Building, where Dino's restaurant used to be, between the real estate office and the liquor store. It's a brand new market and cafe. They have had a preliminary inspection, and tomorrow they'll have their final inspection. And then the others are renewals for the Coachman Lodge, Motel and Pool, as well as the Irish Pub. So we just need a motion to approve the permit list.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. And second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Ron has made a motion and Matt has seconded it. Sharon, did I hear from you?
Yep, I said aye.
I'm sorry. All in favor. So permits have passed. Anything else? Anybody say anything?
Our next meeting is what? Is when? September?
September, it's on the 14th. It's a Monday.
Oh, all right. I thought I might have had it wrong in my calendar. All right.
Yeah. Before COVID started, we had to switch that date because of elections, I think, or some kind of primary. So we couldn't do it on the 15th. So we're scheduled for Monday, September 14th.
Okay.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
I'll make a motion. Go ahead.
Do it.
Okay, Sharon makes a motion and Ron seconded it, and Matt, are you in favor?
Yep.
Yes, and I'm in favor.
And
So adjourn. We will adjourn.
all right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Good. Come on.
Bye.